Welcome back to Tau Talk. We dive into the weekly ebbs and flows of BitTensor, massive shifts in alpha token flows, Metanova is changing the game for drug discovery, and so much more. I'm your host 563, and this week I'm excited to have T-Slice, longtime community member / contributor, creator of Michael Towler, all around good dude, and I'm hearing potential subnet builder. How's it going, guy?
Hey, 563, thanks for having me. Yes, that potential is true. There is a subnet in the future, and I'm just having a really great time participating in the space and diving full on into BitTensor. It's such a great community, and that's actually part of how we met. We met in Austin, and now we're here. So
now we're here.
Shows what's
It's
possible.
crazy, man. You're everywhere. You're doing everything around BitTensor. You're doing the Church of Rao calls too now, right?
Yeah, that was like a really cool opportunity that came up because Reef went away for a week. I jokingly say somebody told him he's allowed to have a life, so he went. But I covered for him while he was away, and part of what I've done previously is a lot of facilitation, mainly in roles of like project manager or just facilitating conversations in DAOs. It's right. Something that I've done for a few years now. And it was great. It worked out really well. Reef came back, and then I said, hey, do you want to actually run it together? I can continue to run the agenda, and you have all the time you need to, have the discussions with the devs and this kind of thing. And we tried it out, and it went great. So with any luck, should be there again next week.
That's cool, man. I'll have to call in. There's a lot of development work that people don't see. It's all in the background. And yeah, it's like a lot of individual contributors. So it's cool that you guys have those open dev calls and you coordinate that too. I mean, it's not just the OTF. People forget that most of the time.
Yeah. And that's a really important point too. And that's part of what Reef and I connected on is the vision and the path is decentralization, decentralizing BitTensor, and it's decentralized. Officially speaking, but it's a path, like true decentralization is
spectrum.
Yeah, exactly, like a gradient, and it's its own. It's its own. It's its own holy grail, achieving decentralization, and so that's part of the idea of the open dev call. From my perspective, is that it's communication to the community, and the community is the protocol, so yeah,
because people talk about decentralization. You can decentralize the chain, you can decentralize the holder base, but it's also about decentralizing the development of the chain too.
Awesome. Yeah, and there's amazing contributors that are there and have been there for a long time, and many of them come out of OTF, and that's the idea with OTF, right? Dissolve it.
Exactly. It was made to
dissolve its involvement. Yeah, and that's straight from Jacob,
Love it, man. But we have a lot to get through today, so let's just hop right into it. Let's go through this week's headlines. This one was pretty cool. I know we've been talking about these Tau Treasury companies coming and going. Well, mostly popping up. There's 6 now, and they just built this new cool Treasury tracker. Let me go bring it up, actually, because it's a really cool site. Right now, there's, like I said, there's 6 total entities for public companies, 2 of which are on the NASDAQ. And yeah, it's just really cool to track them here. Millions of buying pressure coming for Tau. What do you make of this, man? Have you been following these pretty close?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity actually to meet a couple of these in person at Paris, Proof of Talk. This is a cool site that we're actually able to track this. So met the guys from Oblong. They're really cool. They're really excited about the ecosystem, really interested in it. And that's what I found, like with all the people who are doing this kind of thing, they're like just so Tau-pilled.
Yeah.
They're not just in it because it's going to be the next Bitcoin of AI or whatever you want to call it. Like they actually believe in it. And that's part of the fundamentals of why it is a good investment for them, is because, once you get Tau-pilled, that's it. And like Tau X is also really exciting because if I'm not mistaken, that's from James Altucher, who is a big voice for Bitcoin, and a lot of people follow him, and I think that's a really good one to get exposure to. And I mean, Safilo is great as well. The other ones I haven't heard of myself. That's not to say they aren't great, but yeah, TauX from James Altucher is really exciting for me.
Yeah, I've heard of XOW too. I'm excited for that one to launch pretty soon. A lot of these companies, they're not just holding Tau, they're planning on like running validator services or in some way contributing to the ecosystem too. So I'm excited for that part as well.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and anytime someone is accruing a whole bunch of Tau, that presents an opportunity to participate as a validator. So
yeah, why not, right?
Yeah, why not? And it would be great if they can join the ranks of the validators like Rizzo and Roundtable.
Exactly, bare metal guys.
You got it. Yeah, the ones doing the work.
Love to see it.
And
man.
Yuma. Those are the three. As far as I understand, if I'm missing a validator that's actually doing the work and isn't child hockeying, DM me so I don't.
You say Roundtable?
Yeah, Roundtable. Yeah, Cap Sage. He's a gem. What an incredible person.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, we call those guys out every once in a while. But yeah, really cool site, and I'm excited for this list to grow and get some more details on here as time goes on. Yeah, let's hop over here. So Metanova, they've actually started going beyond that massive data set they started with. So they started with this one called Savi 2020, which is this absolutely incredibly huge data set of molecules on there. And miners were able to like try to fit proteins together with molecules and see what fits. This is way beyond my understanding, but they had this playground to work within. But now what they're doing is they're opening it up. So miners can generate molecules dynamically. So you don't have this just preset database that maybe other researchers have already looked into. Now it's like billions of new options that these miners can start plugging into other molecules. And I mean, this is really paving the way for drug discovery. It's a lot more shots on net, and I'm just excited to see what these miners come up with.
Yeah, the Metanova is cool. I think one of the coolest things when I think about them is that, and it's self-described, if maybe I'm misquoting them, but basically this allows them to do more swing for the fences style discovery.
Yeah.
That would be high, like, for example, there's a high likelihood that it probably wouldn't work, but if it did work, it would be amazing. So that's the kind of stuff that doesn't typically get funded because it's a little too risky for the people who invest in these things. So that's one of the cool things I like, because that's BitTensor and it being a subnet actually unlocking something very unique that only the BitTensor setup can offer for them, right?
Yeah, my understanding is when like large labs are looking into these proteins, they'll have an idea or like a starting point where they want to evolve from. So they'll take this base protein and they're like, all right, how can we tweak it here and there? And they'll run a bunch of different combinations and try to get sort of close to what they're already started with. But with this, you can just start fresh, throw out some crazy ideas and see what happens. So that's kind of the power of BitTensor, right? It's that scalability. It's that you don't have to answer to shareholders as much, maybe just to Tau holders and subnet token holders, but they're a lot more forgiving and a lot more understanding of this R&D process, I think.
Yeah, and you just have access to R&D. You know, it's funded by the chain, and ultimately it's up to the subnet owner to fund the LP pool that supports those miners. But you know, you don't have to go do all that funding up front yourself for every single thing that's happening there, and that's the big difference.
And the market tells you if they like it or not. So you get instant.
Yeah, you get instant feedback on that price set. Yeah, price pair.
Yeah, we've seen when the market does not like subnet owners' pivots, and it can be pretty rough.
No doubt.
Shout out to the Metanova team. But wanted to highlight Synth over here, working together with Arbitrum and GMX. For folks that don't know, GMX is a PERT protocol over on Arbitrum, and they've teamed up to do this competition. So AI agents can plug directly into the APIs of both GMX and Synth, and trade on the platform and use the volatility data they're getting from Synth to make some really cool trading strategies. So there's a couple of big teams working on this, and whoever wins gets $20,000. So I think the competition just started. So this is going to be one to watch this week.
That's a great prize.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I really like Synth, and I like what they're doing. I like where they've come from. I like their proof of pitch that they presented.
Yeah, man, I don't think a lot of people are talking about that. I brought it up in one of the Discord channels, and I don't think people had heard of that. Like, it's kind of a robotics idea, right?
Robots. Yep. Yeah,
That's
exactly. Train using might articulate it, but my understanding is, and Amber can correct me, but it's training robots in virtual environments using synthetic data, and that's all built within a competitive framework to accelerate it with the miners, etc.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah, but yeah, Synth is killing it. I love with these like actual real world use cases, and I'm sure you appreciate the fact that they're using some agents here.
Yeah,
Cool
love
to
to
see
see that. Yeah, and actually, people don't realize that part of like Synth comes from mode, right?
Yeah,
The mode L2, and part of their differentiating of the L2, because you need to do that. They decided to go with the direction of it's the L2 or the EVM chain for agents. So
yeah.
I'm curious to look at that a bit more and see what on-chain stuff from the EVM participates in that. But it was I was excited when I saw them early in the BitTensor eco, because I was like, oh, I farmed that. I farmed that airdrop. Interesting.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. But yeah, I love to see them continue to innovate. I think Dynamic Tau in general has forced these teams to be creative on how they're thinking about connections to different ecosystems, or how they want to like explore partnerships. So I'm really excited to see branching out not only off chain but also on chain, because there's a lot of users and a lot of traders. It makes complete sense to like pair up with GMX because you have that volatility data as well. So shout out to Synth, shout out to the Mode team.
Yeah, really
Wanted to
cool.
highlight Hippius. These guys are adding Tau and fiat payments. Really, I think it's going through Stripe, so that's like really easy onboarding for users. And it seems like we mention every week, but I just really want to emphasize the real value generation from these subnets. People are actually paying to use these things, and even though they're like super early products, I think that's really impressive to see.
Oh man, I mean, you get me started on Hippius, I won't stop.
Really?
I'm and in such a good way. Yeah, like I'm so bullish on Hippius. It's crazy. People I think we even talked about this in one of our alpha groups that we're in, like the small one that we're in, you and I.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, where's the narrative going to be for decentralized storage? There might not necessarily be that narrative specifically coming up, but the thing is once you've cracked decentralized storage on BitTensor and it starts being integrated into things people are building, like that is such a key component
Huge.
to decentralizing stuff you want to do online. It's a key, it's a critical piece for being censorship resistant, you know? Like if somebody wants to make a GitHub of BitTensor because they don't want GitHub owned by Microsoft. This is an idea that I thought about for a subnet, but then I'm like, no, it literally Git is Git, which is not owned by Microsoft, but GitHub is a front end that's hosted, right? And what does that require? Decentral, and it holds all the repos. It's all decentral. It's all storage. It's all stored centrally, and it's owned by Microsoft. If somebody wanted to make a decentralized version of that so that we weren't at the whims of Microsoft, all they need is a front end, and then they need the decentralized storage to back it up. And that's just like one example of an app that can be built better using BitTensor exclusively when this technological advent is unlocked.
100%. Yeah, and I mean, even every miner, every validator on the network needs storage. So if they have this option to use Hippius over, AWS or whatever, it's a no-brainer. If it's as easy to use, and I think that's the goal.
And I don't know if, I haven't looked at the prices, if it's even cheaper than going directly to IPFS or what have you, then, I mean, that's incredible. And like, and needless to say, you also want to look at the team. This is backed by Mog, and one of his like core architect for things that he's built before, like Tau stats, this kind of thing. Dubs is this is from what I understand, this is his subnet. And I had the pleasure of meeting Dubs for the first time a lot, and again re-meeting Mog. Albeit it was a bit of a messy night at the club in POT, proof of talk, but like, you're dealing with two very legit human beings, and especially just in regards to Dubs, like I've talked with lots of devs, and I mean, it goes without saying, he's cracked, and he's legit. Like, he's shared some of his very strong opinions about certain things happening in the crypto space with me, and I'm like, you're speaking to my soul, man. So like, don't I'm like going to be such a bull. I'm like, don't sleep on Hippius, but really, this is personally one of my larger bags.
Yeah, nice, man. I love seeing, like, it's one of the building blocks, right? You have compute on one side, but you also need storage. So I'm excited that this is building on the network for sure. And congrats on the payment rails, guys. It's a big step. And yeah, late addition here, Tau stats added limit orders finally, and not finally for these guys. I'm happy these guys finally, I'm saying finally we have this option to put limit orders on the network. Yeah. And I can't wait to like set and forget some low bids, especially while, market's a little choppy.
I was looking through the slides you sent me before we got on here, and I gotta say, this might be the one I'm most excited about.
Isn't it great?
It's incredible. I gotta go check it out, like, right after we're done this. This is a game changer. I mean, this is, this is just such a critical tool for people to trade without, and the fact, and again, it's Tau stats. Tau stats was there day zero of DTAU. Yeah. Like, I have so much respect, again, for Mog and his team and the Tau stats guys for doing that when everybody's like scrambling to like buy. They're scrambling to make sure people can, right? And I don't think, and I sincerely think, if Mog hadn't done it, and I think he got some prodding from Jacob to make sure it was ready.
Yeah.
But if Tau stats wasn't where it was on day one, I don't know where we would be. Like, I feel like we just are, as like an ecosystem, as the DTAU advent, because it allowed everyone to participate, not just people who could use command line.
100%. Yeah, man, I'm excited about this.
Now we can make some money.
Limit orders, basically, you can specify the price that you would want to buy or sell an asset, and you can just set it and forget it. So you just say, I would be willing to buy this subnet for $10. And if it drops that price, it'll just buy it for you. And you don't have to wait by your computer all day. And you don't have to set up a script to do it for you. It's great.
Yeah, you can set up your entries and your exits, your ideal entries and exits. And you can also protect yourself a little bit. You can create stop loss, of course. So
very cool.
Yeah, really cool. And actually, this reminds me of Siam Kid, or he was on a podcast, and he was talking about how they trade within a certain range. This is the kind of tooling you need to be able to really take advantage of that.
Exactly. And you don't have to know command line. So even better.
Yes.
Awesome, man. But I want to talk about the top movers for this week. Which subnets in the top 20 made the highest one? Do you know off the top of your head before we go to the next slide?
Well, I did peek at the slide, and it's hard to forget the imagery. Basilica?
Yeah, Basilica.
It
seems like there's one a week that just cracks the top 20 with a crazy move up. Well, this one obviously Brand new compute subnet from the Templar team. Shot up 385% when I made the slide anyway, percent on the week, up to rank 16.
Wow.
And, yeah, huge move, especially in a sea of not very huge moves / down moves for the top 20.
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, this is kind of the meta that it's funny. People kind of like complain about meta sometimes because oh, it's nonsense. But this is like the Tau hash meta, the because Tau hash acquired a subnet, and then what happened there. So people are speculating on these subnets that are up for sale right now, and it looks like the one from Wombo was a really good bet if you're in there. Right.
Yeah, congrats whoever made that trade, because I definitely did not. Yeah, and we'll talk about.
I really liked. I thought it was funny how Wombo, and I don't know if it's still happening. If the cold key swap, I think the cold key swap must be complete now.
It must be. Yeah.
But while it was happening, they were like changing the name of it over and over and putting like different symbols and stuff. And I'm just imagining. The team at Wombo
that's just
like graffitiing, just like spray painting the wall. Like it was. I like the memetics of Basilica very much, even though it's not a meme.
No, I think it definitely is because it was born with Wombo and has the memetics there. I love that.
Yeah, they have memetics, and I got nothing but love for DT, distributed tensor, Sam Dare.
Yeah, awesome dude.
And I'm not doxing him. His name is out there, but yeah, he's a king, and Basilica is going to be incredible. And a lot of people don't understand. And forgive me if I'm wrong on this, or if I need to be corrected. DT will message me after seeing this.
We have a whole slide on Basilica later.
Okay, we'll talk about Basilica later.
Yeah. Okay. Just to round up the top 3, Score just been on like a hot streak. I feel like I have these guys in the top movers every week. Up to rank 7, up 15% on the week. I guess their new podcast is going well. Happy for you guys. They have that miner buy-in. I know they have very strong relationship with their miners, which is very important. And then obviously their football team announcement is coming soon. So I'm guessing maybe this is a little bit of front running for that. Have you been paying attention to that at all?
Yeah, people should definitely not sleep on Score. I sound like such a Cole saying that, but truly, one of my insights from being at POT was getting to meet more of the extended Score C-suite team that works with Max.
Yeah.
And just very impressive, just how impressive and strong, and really great professional backgrounds, from all the teams, and what has the greatest potential. And the speed that Score is moving,
for sure.
But people should recognize, for sure.
Very professional team. And to round out the top 3 for this week, we had Compute Horde leading the charge with all those chain upgrades like EMA 3, Commit Reveal, Liquid Alpha. Do you think that's what's driving this? I know you're pretty close to the Reef and the folks over there.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, Compute Horde, and this is me speaking candidly, like for me, any subnet that is like an infrastructure play that is like going up, it's sort of like I'm kind of like, what's causing that, right? Because you can look at Compute Horde, you can look at Subvortex. There's a few other that are escaping me right now, but they're like bit tensor infrastructure plays. They're almost like their own vertical of exposure, and Compute Horde is a great one. And I think it has mind share, it has a great leader, and it's rolling things out. What would be great to learn more about is how Compute Horde is going to monetize, or this kind of thing. But in the end, we're all so early, and these infrastructure subnets seem pretty critical, so I think that they're great plays for the long term, and that's kind of how I treat them. Is
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it's any kind of repricing too, because Basilica went online. This like computes is on the mind. Maybe we need a new head-to-head going comparing Basilica, Compute Horde, Celium. Um, I think another one,
Neural internet
neural internet. Yeah,
and 9. Yeah, because it is good to compare them because they're all doing compute, but they're doing it in different ways for different reasons. I think there's only a couple of them that are really similar side by side as to what they're doing.
sure.
But even those two that I'm thinking of, how they're doing it and how they're monetizing it and how they're paying their miners and stuff is different. So that would be a really good expose, I would say.
Yeah. Maybe next week. That could be a fun one.
Cool.
Awesome, man. But yeah, I want to step back for a second because I think we get lost in the weeds a lot of times. I pinged the Tau agent bot and asked it for what's going on this past week. And its main point was that there's this huge rotation. So rotations out of the top subnets and into the lower ones. I know we had the subnet cap go into effect last week at 128. And do you think it's just folks that are trying to bid on those lower ranked subnets, or is it I don't know, loss of conviction in higher ranked subnets? What do you think of this?
I think rotation and capital is almost usually exclusively appetite for more gains. So, you have Michael White and other people saying, we need more liquidity in here. Once you start hearing that, it's pretty indicative that the liquidity that's here is growing slowly. So the money that's here, they go into something that's the number one subnet or number two subnet, or wasn't and then is. Or you see the top ones drawing down because they don't have that room to grow until that extra liquidity comes in. So I think it's natural to see rotation among them. And then there's also traders that are aware of this. And, you look at something and if you have a bullish subnet that's in the bottom half of subnets, and you have conviction in that, you're going to want to get in there. And I think a lot more people than would like to admit are 100% or close to in alpha. So
Really?
Yeah. I
Maybe.
mean, maybe I'm admitting something here, but for me, you take profits in Tau, you need to participate in alpha first, right? My outlook is people are like, oh, we're in root, and what we make on root, which is more Tau, we'll put that into alpha. And I'm like, okay, so you're just waiting to start.
It's you're just different mindsets, right?
No, yeah, exactly. And everyone has their own attitude, but with so many people having speculated so quickly, so early, some people, really making a mess of things for themselves doing that. But as the alpha, the root selling continues to calm down and the interest in alpha, come back. And that's a whole nother conversation. The fact that the better alpha does, the more root makes. So it pulls people back to root. But yeah, I think the rotation is happening and it is natural. And if people are trading, it's definitely something you want to be mindful of.
Yeah, I think you have to be careful when this stage of that rotation sets in, right? Where people are taking more risk by buying these lower market cap subnets. I think maybe that shows people are desperate for gains, and maybe that's just the market. At this point, a lot of sellers are exhausted. People are exhausted. They're not thinking that things will improve. But when it does, I think that's when you get those full shifts back to market elation. And I think we're just part of the pendulum. It's just the pendulum swinging back one way and the other. I think people will double down on the winners when things are going well, and when market's turning down, maybe they're trying to squeeze out every bit of alpha they can get out of these alpha tokens.
Yep.
Maybe that's it.
People want to make money. People want to make money.
I mean, that's part of detail. I know people were worried about, or people are complaining a lot on Twitter, just saying they're losing money. But I mean, that's part of it, right? It's speculation, market forces trying to find out what's the most valuable here, and the market is, punishes you when you're wrong. That's the whole point.
Yeah, and you're only really punished when you sell. So
Well,
you got
yeah,
to hodl. Sometimes you got to hodl, especially in these early days. And I think Mark Jeffrey talks about it when he talks about, would you get into ETH at this price or that price, or would you have been happier getting into BTC at 5,000 or 6,000? Same thing goes for Tau. 300 or 400. And all these alpha tokens are going to follow, and the limit helps with that right now too. I'm a
true. I'm
proponent
actually kind of
limit.
happy about the limit, to be honest. I think it's a little more easy to keep track of what's going on, keeps people focused. It's less about, all right, what's the new highest number that we can
Yeah, it's giving the builders a chance to catch up,
yeah.
because the rate of registration was really fast, and I think it was a good call. Yeah,
Agreed.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. I wanted to talk. I know we got fresh blood this week. The only one on the docket is Basilica, launched on 39. It's a compute subnet, like we said, by the Templar team. Const donated 2,000 Tau to the effort, and they're working on AI-specific compute. And I believe they launch tomorrow. We're going live tomorrow. Pretty cool. I think it's supposed to be helping with AI developer, like an AI developer focus. So you can think about how this connects up to Templar. Maybe they need to source more compute from that angle. And it also, compute subnets make a lot of money. So I know, DT always talks about the fact that in order to scale Templar, you need a lot more money behind it to actually pay these miners. And I think this is just part of it. Have you dug into this one? I'm sure you have.
A little bit. I haven't checked the updates today, but you were saying these compute subnets can make lots of money. That's true, and it depends on what they're doing. And also that might not matter, because the thing is like, you look at Neural Internet and Cilium, they're vendoring GPU compute, and Cilium, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they were the first monetized subnet, and that's because it's just such a clear path,
I
right?
think you're
Such
right.
a clear commodity. And my understanding is Basilica is an answer to what you just mentioned from DT, where he's like, look, we have the miners, they're doing what needs to happen on Templar, but the big difference between the frontier labs and us is resources, yes, but resources directly translating into compute. And
Yeah.
his words are like, we just need so much more. So much. Like hopefully they can get it from one subnet. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like there isn't enough. There
I
isn't too
wonder.
much. There isn't too much compute. So I could literally see this subnet exclusively powering the efforts on Templar. And it's kind of like how we're seeing there's an ecosystem of chain of custody, almost potentially, with chain of intelligence building from macrocosmos, right?
Yeah.
So and again, there are parallels and comparisons, but the approach is different between what's happening on Templar and 9, and now with Basilica. And I'm just bullish on it because Basilica is powering Templar, and just like decentralized storage with Hippius, which is so critical for the freedom of humanity, so is the decentralized train base model, right?
Yeah.
Like that's when I first got introduced to BitTensor by a random call. I got introduced to Cons 3 years ago, and he personally gave me a walk through it. And the thing that resonated with me was decentralized AI and why that's important. And it only really gets realized because in building all the agents and all the agent projects that I've been involved in and I'm involved in now, you know, you can even source subnet 19, right? Which is BitTensor. And this isn't anything against subnet 19. It's just how it is across the board right now. You dig deeper and you ask the model, hey, what model are you using? It's going to come back with one of these other base models that's out there, whether it's ChatGPT or some that are more open source, right?
From his training data, right?
Yeah. What is the LLM that I'm talking to, right? And Templar build the Templar one, right? And it's less parameters and all this stuff. So for us to compete and keep AI free and sovereign for humanity, you know, because who knows what'll happen in the future when we all need it. Is it going to have a $300 a month price tag on it or something like that?
Hope not.
To have access for everybody. Like literally it's like that. It's like if we move everything to electricity, all they have to do is yank up the electricity price, right? So it's the same thing here. We got to be mindful of that, and that I just from an ethos and mission and why I'm here, like why I'm here on this podcast, why I'm in BitTensor at all. It has to do with what the vision behind what Templar and Basilica are doing, basically. Like it's that important.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about this one. And you know, I think Celium, they're maximizing to not have any idle compute. Like if people aren't renting H100s, they just won't incentivize more H100s to come onto the network. I wonder if Basilica will just take all that idle compute and give it to miners on 3, you know, just make it free for them to mine. So you can just get more and more compute behind it. I think that'd be pretty cool. I'm sure they're thinking of cool synergies there. I'm excited to hear more.
Yeah. Hopefully they come up with something like that. Kind of reminds me of Bitcoin miners using excess power from power plants at nighttime.
There you go.
You know?
I like that, man.
Yeah.
I like that. Sweet. But yeah, that's all we had for today. T-Slice, really appreciate you joining us today. Where should folks go if they want to learn more about you, what you're working on?
Okay, great. Yeah. You can find me on Twitter or X, as they call it, at TSliceAI. And you can check out my agent project at Michael Towler. And also the Creator Bid Tau Council. I'm coordinator there, and we're connecting subnets with agent builders to drive revenue and exposure to subnets and the ecosystem. And there will be a subnet soon, but I don't have anywhere to send you for that. So follow me at TSliceAI.
Nice,
please.
dude. Yeah, you're all over the place. I appreciate that. You're a busy dude.
It's fun, man. Thanks for having me on. This has been great.
Yeah, no worries, dude. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the Tau Times newsletter if you want an even deeper dive into this week's updates. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks, man.